Hi everyone, I hope you're all well. We are going to look at some predictions, but I'm going to make this a short one because I'm going to focus on the giants in the arena right now. So I think there's something going on with China, Russia, and India, and obviously the US. I have put global predictions because this is fluctuating the stocks, the economy, the financial market, the financial positioning, the positioning of alliances and countries around the world, and it impacts everything, even more. So it doesn't mean if you're not in one of these countries that you wouldn't be interested in this. I'm not a political reader, but I do more recently since I've stopped doing the tarot, I have read on politics, so I'm bringing you predictions. I want to say this is very emphasized from the third week of September. Over the next few weeks, you're going to see it play out, and obviously it will impact global countries. So let's say from the 20th, 21st of September, obviously you can give it a day or two before, and it will go on and play out for the next few weeks. So I've already got some of the predictions that I want to cover, and if you saw my last one where I think I called it Trump strategizes, that is still very valid. So before these predictions, I did actually make some notes on a prediction that I was getting through, and I just hope that I did actually note it. I just remembered now that I'd done something. So yeah, I've got Trump uses tariffs. His strategy for Russia and India is going to be increased. So he's going to definitely strategize his moves on them, whether it's tariffs, like I said, mainly tariffs. And I remember I said about India and Russia, and here we are. So China is also in the background doing other deals with others secretly. I mentioned Trump really wants to try and control the US dollar being the main currency of oil and gas, mainly oil, and the buying and I don't want to say manufacturing, but because India takes on crude oil and I believe it refines it, resources it, and gives it to some European countries or sells it, I think Duck also wants to try and manage that situation. So we will see like petrol and crude oil, that he wants that to be in the US dollars, or even I think he'd be open to Bitcoin, but not another country. And what's interesting, I think like Pakistan and Ukraine might be in his vision for natural resources. So I don't know if he's got it on his agenda to meet with the Pakistani president. This, what I'm noting and reading right now, was on the 25th of August. Russia President P didn't quite play that meeting with Duck the way Duck wanted it. And I don't know if there was any behavioral analysts in the press conference that could say like Duck might not have been so happy about the outcome. I think BRICS will be trying to avoid the US dollars as much as they can. After all, they do stand for trying to put their countries in the forefront or in some kind of power. But in my recent predictions, I said that does not mean that the US will ever come, or in the near future that I can see, irrelevant, because that was a question. If you're not catching those readings, they're interested. They're Q&As and quick answers. I did mention India is going to have an extremely hard time until the middle of September, and that's whether with, media announcements that could be true and fake, the president, internal borders, sanctions on IT software, offshore companies, tariffs from the US, that sort of stuff is coming up for India. But it's not going to break it fully. But he does want India to stop buying the crude oil and selling it. I think AI is going to be something around AI for India, and therefore the Indian rupee may go down a little bit. I'm talking about the 25th of August onwards, so we might have seen a bit of a plummet already. Duck maybe, if he meets with Pakistan or puts that on his agenda, or if he has recently, he might be mistaking the power of Pakistan to the same as India, and they are quite different. And I think India is going to try and show that it will not be dictated, where Pakistan might actually vouch for Duck. So that's going to be interesting to see if that plans out. India will resist to some extent, but they're not going to retaliate. So I do want to say that there's going to be some tense, and I think, we should be seeing it right now between India and the US, and that could be Trump just decides on this day. He's actually making me laugh with the tariffs. Like, he just comes out the next day, okay, X tariff increased on this country, between India and the US. Ukraine and Russia are not going to stop anytime soon their wars, and it might unfold. It might stop a bit, but there could be an unfolding into like a similar level of world war in around 2030. And NATO, I mentioned this in a reading prior on NATO, they know all this, and they started doing some trenches and stuff like that. I think one country in NATO won't abide by what is going on, because that will actually trigger the larger risk of the 2030 heated issue. I wonder if J.D. Vance has visited I don't know if I'm getting Pakistan or India recently. He's going to, and he's going to play like a neutral perspective on things when he does that meeting. So I don't know if that's come forward, but let's go to, so that's prediction. Now let's go to the third week of September onwards, and the countries to watch are the US, China, India, and Russia. And I think there's currently either meetings between them or a summit or something. There's always going to be the changes in the tariffs that is happening, and that's causing the market volatility. And I think by the third week of September onwards, we're going to see very strong from that third week, 21st, into the first half of October. Very strong, but it will plan out for the next few weeks, is, rules, contracts, trade agreements, agricultural, health, labour forces protests. And I'm saying this because I've said it in my September predictions. You can go back and look, but that is going to be a major theme around the globe, not only these countries. And that's why, again, I call it the global. So you can expect in whatever country you're in, one of these is going to be a theme that's going to be heightened during this time. It's going to indicate, there's indication around these areas of sudden disruption, but also this time a hidden revelation. Because remember, I said there's going to be some fogginess that we can't quite see, but then there's revelations. And I think there's going to be, and I mentioned it, that leaders that have made policies will backtrack. So there's going to be policy shifts. And I believe the policy shifts that I'm currently seeing is within the areas that I mentioned: trade agreements, health policies, agriculture, labour forces, rules around contracts, legal agreements, trades, tariffs. Again, with all that, I see market volatility. I had to spell it out in my head to then be able to say it correctly. Corrections, rewriting policies, backstepping on policies, or even policy-driven swings, especially around commodities and technology sectors. So that's where we see India affected again. Now, if we look at some things around the US, around that third week to end of September, beginning into October, that could then plan out into a few weeks, we're looking at a sudden shock. There could be something around debt or a scandal around debt coming up, a scandal around banking or crisis around banking. And there will be hidden power plays that we might not see, where I said there's stuff going on behind the scenes that is occurring during this time. And some things we will actually see. And some things that we do see is the rewriting of their decisions. But look out for sudden shocks, scandals, banking crisis type stuff, hidden power plays. Expect the financial turbulence, and this could also indicate announcement around banking, corporate debt issues, and there's definitely hidden truths around the government finances, Wall Street dealings. I haven't said Wall Street for a very long time. It's interesting Spirit's brought that through. And again, like I said, the stock market is going to witness peak volatility. There's going to be a need for corrections before a recovery can occur. I think globally and geopolitically, with the US as well and other countries, we're going to see more on the hidden alliances or the scandals of the hidden alliances that's been happening in the background. Okay, now let's go on to my other notes. So we've said about financial markets being in the forefront, financial shocks, debt issues, scandals and sudden revelations. And I feel like this, you're going to hear quite a bit of this come out from the US. Now, this is not criticism against the US, because the UK is an absolute mess for citizens. It's horrible, right? So every country has its thing, and I think I will try and do a thing on the UK, although I'm not sure I'm getting the view, and that is what's wanting, but it's an absolute mess. The thing with the UK, it needs to get to this catastrophic level where the whole breakdown occurs as opposed to just a replacement, because people tend to think that the replacement's going to be the solution. It could be better. I can't see something being worse, but it's not going to be a solution. Like, it's, you know, they always step in and then they do something and then they go AWire, right? But this catastrophic of dissolving, people walking away, that we will see very soon, I think in September, is going to show the melting away as opposed to just replace the person at the top. And obviously they are walking away, not because they totally disagree. They know it's breaking down. Remember, I said this in my predictions a few months ago. I said they will feel that it's breaking down. There's going to be tension and anxiety. Should they walk away? Should they not walk away? You can go back and see that. I even pulled cards, I recall it. So I think, you know, what we need to look out for is Duck's decisions on alliances, the political maneuvers he's going to make, which will directly trigger the economy and market ripples, especially in the US, which then lead out globally, but especially in the US. Duck may announce some kind of foreign or trade policies, and this could involve China, Russia, India, all of them or one of them. And the US market will react quite sharply to financial shock, debt issues, scandals, sudden revelations, to align with the volatility. Spell it out in your head, see the word, say it. What's this point? We need to just, because I've got them in bullet points and I'm elaborating what I channeled. Now, if there's been legal or any fundraising controversy around Duck, now some of you might already be aware that there is something that could be lingering, it could spill into, I don't know if it's the right positioning, Wall Street confidence. I feel like it's Wall Street. The banking investigations or government debt issues, that seems to be a highlighted theme. If Duck gains new alliances and mass support, this will actually boost markets in the short term and increase the global polarization. So that would be a good shift, at least for the interim. Now, if I go on to India, because that's one of the other countries, like I said, there's going to be disruption about software, IT, but also communication, internal borders, neighbors around that, media, the defense and the short-term trade of India during this period from the third week of September onwards. We will see that. I think we will also see India possibly may see a strong policy announcement in telecom, media, social media, tech, cybersecurity, or defense sectors. I think it will also see border tensions, because I got this in September predictions, border tensions, but also possibly new trade deals with neighboring countries and neighbors. The stock market is going to go a bit sideways, and that is going to be like bullish movement. And I feel like this is going to be in like telecom, IT, same sectors, stocks, defense stocks, telecom, IT, and I think defense stocks might benefit. I'm seeing something positive around that. I don't know how that would work out. Maybe someone in India or political can explain what I mean there or what I'm seeing. If we go on to Russia, Russia, I think, is going to be really focusing on some foreign policies, ideologies, and he might come up with some philosophy or ideology. Laws, religion, and higher trade agreements seem to be the theme that they are going to be focusing on. I think there's a possibility that Russia might push for new global trade or defense treaties that might align with non-Western countries. And I think that's a really interesting move that they're doing there. Is that possibly because, Duck was going to give Russia the reins to speak to the Middle East. Duck did the visit to the Middle East. There's something that maybe he's copying. I think there's a possibility of legal or sanction-related developments from the Western countries, the Western side. Financial commodities around the oil and gas could be strengthened or renewed, where Russia actually benefits from the supply disruption that could occur. China is doing some secret moves behind the scene. Obviously, it has Taiwan in its energy, or it's trying to get Taiwan. I think Russia in the future might try to get to Poland. I'm going to pull cards on that in the next one, but I do get that. What is he going to try and do? But China, I think they're probably very much going to have the same focus as Russia, like coming out with some new ideology, philosophy, foreign relations, global trade, maybe laws. There could be internal issue with China, they have some issues internally, don't they? So the ideological stance as well. I do think that they will do an assertive foreign policy move, new trade blocks and legal trade disputes, and it will target the US. Or especially with the US. So they will try to realign again with the US. So there's going to be some hidden things going on there. Yeah, with the US, not target the US, with the US. Again, volatile. This is why I say it affects all countries. Volatile, but it will be a resilient market, the Chinese stock market. And I think they're going to focus on manufacturing and tech experts during this time of volatility. The currency strategy, yuan, I feel is going to have quite a dominant or a big role to play, and I'm not quite sure how that is, but it definitely sits within what we've said. So the market, the US markets, the Dow, the Nasdaq, the SPY, SPY, is going to be volatile. But there's going to be corrections made around the third week of September. The banking and tech, because I said about those coming under a bit, there's going to be some scandal or scrutiny, is going to go under pressure. Now look how this ties in, because, the stock market, China is going to make strong moves on manufacturing tech expert. And look here, and then we had India that's having some tech issues. Tech and banking in the US is going to be under extreme pressure. So look how the political moves occur. The Indian market, to summarize, is going to be quite sideways, bullish, but it strengthens in the IT, defense and telecom, despite possibly getting a bit wavered or feeling there's uncertainty. I feel Russia and China are quite similar. They're going to push for de-dollarization, and they're going to look for commodity-driven gains that they can get. So whether that's manufacturing or the areas that I mentioned each one is in. And I think they're going to really strengthen the assertive alliances. And like China's going to bring out new foreign policies or assert them. I think due to the uncertainty, because I think a lot of people like to look at gold or silver, I do think that there will be uncertainty around the gold and silver. But again, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take my thing. If you are into that, I have no clue about that. But, you know, other than you can wear silver during this lunar eclipse, if this is out on time for that lunar eclipse. Let's go a bit energy clearing. Crude oil, I think there's going to be a spike as Russia and China will strengthen their trade, and there are going to be supply fears because of the uncertainty. Cryptocurrency, I think again volatility there is increased, and there's going to be sudden government crackdowns on that. Or even we will see policy announcements on cryptocurrencies. So I think we've got hidden truths that are going to come out, especially around finance, politics, trade, agriculture, the themes that I mentioned. Health, I think you're going to see like a big backlash on health. Commodities are going to gain the importance because of the volatility over paper assets. And I think there's going to be a reshuffling, which we've already said on this channel, and still we're going to see it play out, of alliances, global trade alliances especially, are going to, the shifting is going to happen around this time again. So that's our predictions. Let's see what comes through. I will do a further prediction. And obviously, if you want the UK, let's do that. If you want a channeling on Hulk Hogan or Ozzy Osbourne, let me know. I don't want to dive my energy into something that you don't want. I was thinking to cover BK again because... So I just saw that they're going to release Bethany's interview. Or people seem to be waiting on that because it was mentioned or something recently. I don't think you're going to get anything apart from, again, disparity and what did I really get out of this announcement. But I do think from October, end of September, especially October to December, you're going to see some things that are brought forward and you're going to be like, yeah, that is new. That does give us some information. And it could be like big information, big things. If you still think Brian Koberger's case does not have hidden elements and they've strategized the way they've done this, look at my videos. You need to open your mind a bit. I'm not saying BK is not the one. He is. I've channeled as well. But if it makes sense to you, I don't know how it makes sense to you. I mean, even the documents. I feel like even interviews that they're going to release, they're going to be redacting loads of little stuff, pretending it's privacy, etc. When actually there's no need for that much redaction. If they're redacting that much for the victims or the survivors or those that were involved, why aren't they redacting that much for Brian Koberger? Even if he's in jail, there's still the data privacy that is accounted for. And you're going to see a lot of stuff that align with what I've said, but there's going to be a shock. And I think that there might be something that, I think we're going to have a copycat or something that is going to be like, this was kind of BK, but I think a female is going to be strongly involved at the forefront of it. So I think that's towards the end of the year. Remember in my channeling, I said that people think that he's got away lightly. But remember I said that Spirit says your mind, what God and Spirit can do to make you suffer more in your mind is a lot more. So we will see a lot more of that. His OCD exaggerating, getting out of hand. And I hate how people play down OCD. I had a relative who has OCD or had OCD, and there's a lot of fear around OCD. Like, some people think if they pick up something that someone they love could die, or they're washing their hands to the point where their hands are bleeding. It's a serious thing. It's mental torture. But I do think a lot of that, and I think he might get put on some psych meds. But again, they're going to play it up. But remember I said, there is torture by what he's got. But that this case is not black and white. And before any of all this came out, if you look at what I said the defense or this prosecution is going to go with, you'll see a lot seems to align. Now, I think I pulled in one of the cards that he might appeal. I think his deadline for appeal has gone, but it seems with the card I pulled was the Magician. So there's some things that are in the works. I actually want to hear the phone calls with his mother. And I'm going to wrap up here because you might not be interested. Anyway, everyone, take care. Let's look out for these predictions. I have some predictions of Q&As also to record. So if you do enjoy these, please do let me know. I mean, they just bring to awareness. Some of us don't want to be aware. Some of us don't want to do the inner work because, you know, being in our comfort zone and just going with life is a lot easier than the painful inner work. And sometimes you don't know when the inner work ends, to be honest with you. There's always work to be done. But by delving into your inner self, you bring in awareness. And that's how the conscious level of our world gets better. And the old frameworks wash away. And you can have a conversation with someone without thinking, oh my God, they're still in the mindset of believing this or that. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.